Anna is coming at other people's reactions from a slightly different angle.
Hi, Mel. My name's Anna. I just saw your stories and thought I'd send over a question that I've been having. My question is more about, well, I consider myself a very independent person and am definitely very disciplined in what I do. But that leads me to live a life that is very different from most of the people I surround myself with, I guess. So my question is more of how to really hone in on that discipline and keep living the life that you know you should be living, even when others don't understand it or just don't get why you're doing it. Thanks.
Anna, I love this question because you are making a mistake that every single one of us makes when we start to live a life that is truly aligned with what we want to be doing. Everybody that you're surrounded with right now has been on the road with you up until this point, but they have no idea what your day-to-day life is like moving forward because they're not living the same kind of life. And here's what I want you to understand. When this happens and you start to make very deliberate changes, whether it's in your health or maybe you've launched a business or you are just tired of kind of a gossipy social climbing circle of friends and now you're seeking deeper meaning in your life, you don't have to ditch those people. They can continue to be in your life and they will be part of the rest of your life. But they're never going to understand what you're going through because they don't live the day-to-day life that you're living. And a major mistake that I see people making is as we're making major changes, we turn to our existing friends and our family for counsel. And they have absolutely no idea what we're going through. So for example, there are very few people on the planet who actually understand what I do for a living. I can count them on one hand. When it comes to speaking on corporate stages, hosting a podcast, creating content for people like Starbucks and LinkedIn and Audible, to being an entrepreneur, to having the social media following, to having a marriage and a family, like very few people that understand the pressure I'm under, the impact that I'm making, the goals, the hopes, the dreams, the frustrations. My husband doesn't understand it. He's not in that world. My kids don't understand it. My friends don't understand it. If I want somebody to truly understand what my life looks like, I got to pick up the phone and call Jay Shetty or Jenna Kutcher or Trent Shelton, like somebody who is doing what I'm doing. And it goes for everything. Like I'm in the middle of menopause. I talked on the last, a couple episodes ago about this breadbasket that I'm feeling on my waist and hormone stuff. I'm not going to go to a 28-year-old fitness freak in my family and ask them for advice about my stomach. They don't understand what I'm going through. And so I'm making this point because when it comes to people pleasing and when it comes to putting yourself first, the way that you continue to create discipline is twofold. You have to get super intentional about seeking out more people in your life, either through mastermind groups or following people on social media or attending like online classes or going to different events. You've got to find people who are up to what you're up to because they'll understand. They'll support you. And you have to stop seeking validation from the people that are already around you because that's not why you're doing this thing. And here's one more thing I want to tell you. Why do you care what they think? You already said you're independent. You already said you're putting yourself first. Why on earth would you seek validation or advice from somebody who you wouldn't trade lives with? Just stop asking people who are miserable or unqualified to validate your happiness, your life, your choices. You got to validate yourself by making decisions that work for you. Stop looking for validation from other people, particularly other people who don't even understand themselves or what you're doing. Because if they can't understand themselves, if they don't understand what you're even trying to do, there's no way in hell they're ever going to understand or endorse what you're doing. Instead, start looking to people who have made the changes that you want to make, who have the values that you want to make. Not only do they understand what it takes to make this change, but they also have the confidence and the track record and the experience to cheer you on. Well, we've covered a lot of ground, and I think you're starting to realize, wow, this people-pleasing thing isn't really about saying no, it's about self-awareness. It's about my ability to catch those moments where those uncomfortable feelings rise up and to tolerate them. It's about my ability to know that there are going to be times in my life where I'm going to be making decisions that people that I deeply love are going to be disappointed by, and I can make space for both. There are going to be times in my life where I'm pursuing a change in my lifestyle that nobody around me understands, nobody else is pursuing, and I got to stop this default of seeking validation and advice from the people who don't understand what I'm doing. And when you learn how to do that and start making decisions that really empower you in the long run, your life is going to change. It's going to be more meaningful. It's going to be richer, deeper. You're going to feel more agency and control in your life. And I know what you're thinking right now. I know here's what you're thinking. Mel, dear God, do I want this? But if I'm the kind of person that has never, ever, ever put myself first, how the heck do I even know when to do it? And let me tell you something. First, you have to go back to the beginning and become self-aware, and you have to get deliberate about defining the person you are becoming. Let's hear this final question from a listener to this podcast named Nella.
Hi, Mel. I am a big fan from Ireland. My name is Nella. I'm a singer-songwriter. And something that I definitely struggle with is with masking and, being afraid to show up as my true, authentic self to all people at all times. Yeah, just any advice would be amazing on how to just get better at doing that and have the confidence to just be my authentic, true self all the time. That would be great. Thank you.
Nella, thank you first and foremost for your honesty. But I'm going to say something a little provocative. You kept saying the words true, authentic self, authentic self, authentic self. And I want you to stop and ask yourself, do you even know who you are? Do you know what it means when you say, I am my true, authentic self? And the reason why I'm asking you this question is because I don't think most people do. I think we want to be our authentic selves, of course. But what does that even mean? Listening to your question, it reminds me when I was writing The High Five Habit, there was a woman who wrote to me from Ireland, and I ended up getting on the phone and then on a Zoom call, and I spent a lot of time talking to her, and she is in the book. And I want to bring this up because I want to make a point about the pressure that we feel to conform. So in this example of the woman from Ireland, she was writing about the fact that she wanted to get a divorce. That is her true, authentic self. Yet she had been delaying doing this for 7 years because of the pressure of the Catholic Church, because of the disappointment of her mother, because of what the priest might think, because of what the whole freaking country of Ireland might think. And so I'm highlighting this because for some of us, people-pleasing is even deeper than sort of this discomfort. It's the social norm. Like you wouldn't be caught dead in some cultures or in some religions or in some households veering from the norm. The pressure is so intense, it's just the air that you breathe. And for many people, that is the case. And so if that's you, you might not even know what the authentic you is because you have been told for so long by your country, by your religion, by your family, by the community you live in, by whatever, who you're supposed to be. And I'm going to give you a really important exercise. I want you to just imagine that you are a screenwriter, that you are about to write a movie about the real you. Write a character description and describe a day in the life of the real you. Remove the country you live in, remove the religion you grew up with or you didn't, Remove the stories that you've been telling yourself or the pressure you feel or the disappointment or what other people think you should or shouldn't do. And write the story, a day in the life, of who you are at your core. When you would wake up, where you would live, where you would go, what kind of work you do, what kind of friends that you have. What are your habits? What do you love doing? Who are you laughing with? This is such an important exercise because, again, remember, I told you that people pleasing, it's a balance. And it begins with you truly knowing yourself. And if you don't really know who you are because you've always been told who to be and you've spent your life feeling like you do nothing but conforming, this is a really important step for you to take. Because people pleasing at its core is you believing the person that you are deep inside that it's not good enough. You're not good enough. And based on what we've talked about, you can start to change that. But you really have to go through the steps of getting curious about who you are for real. And if the idea of you having a conversation like I did with my dad, or you telling somebody that you're not coming over for dinner because you're tired, and that's the truth, or saying that, nope, you can't borrow my pickup truck again, I don't lend it out anymore. If that makes you really uncomfortable, here's a tool that you can use to start to experiment with that moment of discomfort. And the tool is called switch. And this comes from research. You don't have to say yes. You're going to go from saying, sure, I'll let you borrow my car, or sure, we'll come to Thanksgiving, or sure, I'll do that, or yes, 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 yes. Instead of saying no, switch it to a pause. I'll think about it. Let me check my calendar. I'll get back to you on that. When you switch your yes to a pause and you buy yourself some time, you're going to feel a little less pressure. For example, when you say, let me get back to you, 20 minutes later, you can email back and say, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm booked. Or send no over text if it's too hard to say it in person. Or say no over the phone if you don't want to say it to their face. But switching from feeling the pressure to say yes to putting yourself in a pause, that's what I want you to practice. Because if you can say, I'll get back to you, let me think about it. You got time to settle those uncomfortable feelings. Because remember, it's not about the other person. It's about you not being able to tolerate that discomfort that rises up. And then you immediately make the discomfort going away by going, oh, okay, fine, I'll do it. No. Switch into pause. Switch into pause, because in that pause, you're going to find some peace. In that pause is where you're going to find that balance. And I'm going to give you one more quick little example about how this works. So last week, I was in Las Vegas, and we were on day 15 of a 16-day business trip. And we landed late, and we did a tech check because I was delivering a speech in the morning, and we were about to head up to the hotel. It was 8 o'clock at night. And I turned to my friends and I'm like, we should probably get something to eat because we haven't eaten since lunch. I know it's late and we're going to get up early and then I'm going to have to race and do the speech and then we're going to race and we're not have any food in our stomach. So we went straight to the steakhouse that was in the casino. We walk in there wearing sweats off an airplane. It is 8:30 at night. This place has a freaking DJ in the bar. People are thumping and bumping and glitters and sparkles everywhere. They seat us right away in the bar at a high top. The three of us order immediately because we were going to shovel down that food. I got the filet mignon and some mashed potatoes, and we got mocktails. And right above our head was this speaker that was like boom, 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 boom. Like it was like 0 to 1,000 inside this place. I was not ready for this. I just wanted to get some protein in my stomach and get to bed because I had a speech to give and I was exhausted. So we're eating and we're kind of bopping and talking. And right when the steak comes, I hand her my credit card, signaling, bring me the check right away. I'm part of the Clean Play Club. Like, I am done. I have finished in probably 11 seconds flat. Melinda, who was at the table with us, she is done too. I look over at Amy. She is eating in slow motion. She is enjoying every bite. I think she is engaged in a mindfulness meditation with this steak and salad at this point. And as I assess what is left on her plate, I think, this is going to fucking take her 20 minutes to eat. It is 9:30 at night. I am exhausted. This is the moment I'm talking about, everybody. This is the balance. because the wave of discomfort comes up in my body. I want to leave. I want to go to bed. And I don't want to be a douche. I mean, here, one of my closest friends is sitting here enjoying a salad. We've been on the road together. I'm like a ride or die kind of person. What kind of a jerk leaves their female friend alone at a high top in a bar with a salad that has 85% to go in terms of completion just because they're tired? I do. That's a joke. It's a balancing act. I said to myself, well, what's really going to serve me? And what's really going to serve me, because my number one job is to kill it in that speech tomorrow, is to ask Amy if it would be okay for me to go upstairs and just go to bed. And I felt that discomfort because the old Mel would have been like, I would have just sat there because it would be rude to leave somebody. And oftentimes we don't even ask. We don't even ask. And Amy's sitting right over there. So Amy, I want you to get on the mic because I rode the balancing act. I used the tools and I turned to her because a lot of this is also about the context and it's about how you say it. It's not what you're saying, it's how you say it. And so you don't have to be like, I'm leaving. Out of here, bitches. That's not what I said. I just said, Aim, would it be okay if I head upstairs and go to sleep? I'm exhausted. And Amy, what was your experience of this moment? As I'm clean plating it and you've got probably 20 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, you're a fast eater. So that was number one. And I felt like when you asked me and you said, you mind if I go upstairs? I felt like, thank God, because I would not want her to sit and watch me and my llama eating habits, super slow and just savoring every bite. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that to be the case. I want you to do you, and I want me to enjoy my salad and my steak.
So when you noticed that my plate was clean, and so was Melinda's,
yeah,
and you still had 20 minutes to go, what were you feeling?
Well, I'm often in this situation. I felt like I know what's going to happen next. They're going to want to leave, and I'm happy to do that. I felt really happy for you to get what you needed, and I needed to get what I needed.
I wanted you to hear that, and this is why. You often don't even ask. And Amy was relieved that I asked because you know what? She doesn't want to sit there and feel pressure. She wanted to enjoy her salad, and that's exactly what she did. Melinda and I went upstairs. She sat there for another 25 minutes, bopping and weaving, alone, having the best salad of her life without her annoying friends sitting there staring at her like she was some kind of a zoo animal. So we all won. Bottom line, people pleasing, it's not about the other people, it's about you. So notice when it comes up. Notice that discomfort. Find the strength to say, no, I'm not going to sit here with this discomfort and do something that doesn't serve me. When you have the ability to recognize this and you have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to just fall into line. No means that you're in charge of your life. No strengthens your self-discipline. No keeps your goals and your happiness front and center. It can make you stronger so that you change patterns and habits that don't serve you. Because when you don't say no, you're saying yes to something else. It is powerful. When you say no, I am not going to do that. I'm going to ride this uncomfortable wave and I'm going to do what works for me. And I'm going to know at the end that you can be disappointed and you're still going to love me, but I'm going to love myself a little bit more. Because every time you say yes to you, you are proving to yourself that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have support. You deserve to go to bed in Vegas because it's late. And you deserve to have that room back because you need it. And you deserve to do things that really work for you. So starting today, start saying no. Start tolerating the discomfort. Switch your yes to a pause and put yourself back in charge. Your happiness, your life, it starts with you. Always. Always, always, always. And I know you can do it. And I want you to do it. And you don't have to prove anything to me. You got to prove it to yourself. When I think about the topic of both authenticity and how to be your truest, most powerful self, this is so difficult for people. And I see it everywhere, this inability to stand in your power. I know so many people, and you listening to us may be one of them, that if you order coffee at a coffee shop and they get your order wrong, you don't say something. Because you don't want to make waves. You don't want people to not like you. You don't want the person behind the counter to feel bad. You don't want to hold up the line. And there's an element of being able to stand in your power and ask for what you need that is part of being your truest, authentic self, correct?
1,000%. And in fact, one of the things I can tell you based on my own journey, which is one that before those of you joining us today think that, oh, Ritu, you've always been this way. You always have known how to embrace your authenticity and claim your belonging. The answer to that is absolutely not. In fact, I struggled for decades to embrace who I am and be who I am. But as I learned to do my healing work and stand more in my power, what I realized is that every action, every micro behavior that I engage in is one step forward to me fully embracing who I am and claiming belonging for myself. And whether that is the barista at the coffee shop or the customer service person at the airport or the person on the phone for my internet problems, or family members or my leader or my team members or my clients or my customers, like big stakes. There's the low stakes, big stakes. Every single act, every behavior I engage in is a chain reaction for me claiming my authenticity and belonging. And so, but it took me, like Mel, it took me years to finally make this happen for myself.
How did you know that you weren't your authentic self? Because I asked that question, it may seem kind of dumb, but when we use the words authenticity and belonging, I think those are the kind of words that are intellectual. And so they without like a real life tangible example, it sort of floats over all of our heads. And so I want to start with the piece of authenticity and really help the person listening understand what you're talking about and how you even know if you're your authentic self or not.
Yeah, so it's such an important question. I'm going to tell you a really quick story. I mentioned it in my new book, We've Got This, because it's a powerful example of how these moments can happen for us, where when we're tuned in, we can clock the behavior. And I think being intentional and mindful and tuned in is critical, like self-reflection, self-awareness, huge. So just in a nutshell, so I'm the child of immigrants. From a very young age, I experienced relentless bullying, childhood bullying, and it was racist in particular. Plus I had cultural confusion based on how my parents were like, how white should we make her? How Indian should we push them to be? And so between the cultural confusion and the shielding myself from the hate and hurt coming my way as a kid because of being bullied, I learned to put on multiple masks. And I learned to push down my identities, and I learned to curate what I call a performing self. And when I say performing self, I don't mean like high performance. I mean like life is a stage. We're actors on the stage performing who we are as opposed to being who we are. I did this as a child to shield from hurt, harm. I became a lawyer. I entered the legal profession. And as a young woman of color navigating the corporate world, I noticed that the messages around conformity were never direct, like being bullied as a kid, but they were always there subtly. And so I became a master at shifting codes and hiding, curating what I'll talk about at work and what I'll mask on, and taking on the hobbies of like the corporate world that were like really popular but I hated. And I did all of this to fit in, and I'm using air quotes for those listening and not watching, like fit in, because I can tell you now that changing who we are, masking aspects of our identity, will never yield, never be the same as actual belonging. Like, yes, some doors to acceptance will open, but it's not the same as actually belonging.
I want to stop right there, because I think that's part of the confusion for most of us.
Yes.
Where you innately, whether it's because you want to have friends or you don't want to get picked on, or you don't want to feel lonely, or you want to climb the corporate ladder, or you want to get a job, innately we seek to fit in.
Yes.
And there are varying degrees to which we compromise our true selves. You're talking about something I've never had to personally deal with as a white woman. I've never had to do that code switching because of environments where it was all white, because I, blended into that area. I understand what you're talking about when it comes to the subconscious cues, because as dumb as it sounds, I do remember being a corporate lawyer at a time where women didn't wear skirts. Excuse me, where women didn't wear pants. And that is a very benign and superficial example of fitting in somewhere because I think I have to fit in order to succeed. And so everybody, regardless of your background, you have some example, whether it is deep around your identity, your race, your religion, your sexuality, your gender, or you have examples that are very superficial.
Right.
But what I really want you to explain for everybody right now is what's the difference between fitting into a group or a culture at work versus belonging to that group of friends or belonging to that team and that culture at work?
It is entirely rooted in how you feel, Mel. Oftentimes we think that the mind goes first, but it's actually the body. Our body will signal to us how we're doing how we're experiencing a situation or a person before our mind even catches up. And so we want to, after today, start using our body as a guidepost for an anchor for how we're feeling. And so I define belonging really quickly as the profound feeling. So again, it's something in our body that says to us, I'm being honored and accepted for who I am. When we are experiencing belonging, we feel in flow, like we feel at ease, we feel safe, it feels good, it feels nice, even when it feels vulnerable, like even when we're feeling a bit nervous and activated because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm worried, what are you going to think and say, but I'm still going to share me and do me. It feels good. Whereas fitting in is activating. I often talk about when we feel the pressure to put on our performing self mask and change the way we speak or hide aspects of our identity. Like, for example, I experienced a lot of inequities and hate and hurt coming my way, tied back to my race and intersectionality with being a girl, a smart girl or woman, and coming from a immigrant child family upbringing. But people experience all kinds of judgment and bias tied back to, for example, mental health. Like, look at people's experiences with anxiety, depression, or you grew up poor, or you're the first person in your family to go to college or university, or some people feel like they're so short, tall, they're bigger. Like, we are being judged. The fear of judgment and bias, like people actually judging us based on who we are, that's what strikes at our ability to belong. When we worry, based on my work and research, I can tell you, when we worry that you're going to judge me, you're going to take your love away from me, you're going to take opportunities away from me, that's what causes us to suppress our authenticity, and it strikes at our belonging. And so that's what pushes us to feel like, I got to put this performing self mask on, curate who I am, change the way I speak, change what I talk about, change the way I dress, not tell you about my anxiety, depression, or who I really want to love, or how I view my gender, or how unwell my parents were, or the really crappy neighborhood I grew up in. Whatever the fear is, it's what causes us to curate and sanitize. And so we hide our emotions, we hide our behaviors. And we do this not because we're evil human beings trying to deceive others. We do this to shield and protect ourselves from judgment, which is one of the reasons, Mel, why I don't use the word inauthentic ever. I feel like the term inauthentic, like my first book, The Authenticity Principle, I wrote in it, the term inauthentic or inauthenticity, in my view, has a lot of negative connotations to it. It's like you're deliberately trying to mislead people about who you are. My work in research has shown me, and I can tell you my own personal experience, is that when we put on our performing self masks, We don't do it because we're trying to mislead people. We do it because of hurt and woundedness. Do it because of pain. We do it because we're afraid others will take their love away. And you know what? It's not a figment of our imagination. It's because people in the past have taken their love away from us, and we worry it'll happen again. But as we do our healing work and we stand in our power, we start to realize a life that is created and rooted in belonging, where I feel in flow because I get to be who I am around you. Even if you'll judge me, I'm going to do it anyways, is so much more rich and beautiful than a life of literally walking around with that mask on all the time. And I can tell you, I'm not even effing joking because I did it for decades. This life that I'm leading, it's harder to live because it's more intentional and mindful, but it is so much more beautiful and worth it.
There is so much wisdom and beauty that you just dropped on all of us, okay? Like just a beautiful gift. And I want to try to unpack it because there is so much layered in what you just talked about. And it is so important to me that as you're listening to us, that you're able to grasp these concepts and start to see where this is applicable in your own life. And the word I keep thinking about that you used is activated. So you said when you feel like you belong, you have this state of flow. I would also guess that other words that people say is that they're very present.
Yep.
That their minds are not racing ahead, that there is nothing in the moment that you need to manage.
Yeah.
And that there is this peace and freedom.
Like anchoring, like you're calm, you're anchored.
Yep.
There's the absence of the panic or anxiousness or activation.
Yes. And the activation is an interesting word because I can think to certain friend groups that I was a part of, or certain people I was dating, or certain classes, for example, that I was taking in college, or certain jobs that I hated, where the moment I was walking into the classroom or into work, or I was sitting at a table with my supposed friends, in air quotes, I was not anchored and at peace. I was so active in my mind and thinking about other things and worried about something and not able to feel anchored or at peace in those experiences. And I personally believe, based on the number of people that write in and the size of the audience on our social channels and the podcast, that most people have a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute experience of being activated and not belonging.
Yes.
How does somebody know? And I want you listening to us, I want you to think about where is the easiest place for somebody to spot this for themselves so that they can recognize a place in their life where they're not able to be their authentic self and where they get into this particular part of their life and it's very activating.
So I love this question for so many reasons. So first of all, in my book, We've Got This, I introduce this concept, which I call our core wisdom. And in fact, Mel, if you said to me, Ritu, tell everyone today, what is the number one thing that you did to bring more belonging and authenticity into your life, to bring more ease and joy and flow and peace into your life? What was that?
Ritu, tell us the number one thing that you did to bring more joy and ease and peace into your life. I can pick up what you're putting down, woman. So tell us, because I want to know.
And by the way, I'm a work in progress, everyone. Before you think like, oh wow, Ritu like really has it all figured out and her life is like perfect and whatever, I would tell you like my life feels like it's a fucking mess all the time and I'm like constantly feeling overwhelmed and. However, I am always anchored to who I am. Like I often will say, here I am anchored. The good swirls around me, the bad, the ugly, everything is swirling around me and I am anchored. And why? The number one thing that I did to bring more authenticity, belonging, and joy into my life is cultivate what I call my core wisdom.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, right. Good question. So our core wisdom is the inner knowing that pushes us to tune into ourselves and say to ourselves, in any situation, any interaction, any moment we're in, whether it's a moment of joy or a moment of feeling stressed or a moment of deep pain, whatever it is, we tune in and we say to ourselves, what's my mind saying right now? And in a moment of joy, we'll be saying, oh, I feel so good. This feels really good. Or I really like her. Like, for example, right now, I'm really enjoying this. But in a stressful moment, it'll say, oh my God, I'm such a loser. See, I'm always a loser. And I can tell he's judging me. And this is why I shouldn't speak. And no, don't speak. And I knew you didn't like me. So we hear the narratives in the head, in the mind. We hear the voice. Our core wisdom also pushes us to say, what am I feeling in my body? So let's go back to what I was sharing earlier. Belonging is a feeling. A lack of belonging is a feeling. What is the difference between fitting in and actually being who we are? You'll know the difference based on what your body is telling you. So our core wisdom says, in this moment, in this experience, what is my body feeling and sensing? And we start to tune in, we feel the stress in our chest, and we'll feel that we're starting to sweat, and we'll feel the heat on our face. And then coupled with the negative narratives in our head, like you're a loser, you suck, see, don't speak, don't be who you are, they're going to judge you. We hear all of this and feel all of this happening. And in that moment, we leap into using our core wisdom strategies, which include, oh no, negative inner saboteur, I'm not going to let you talk to me that way. And we have our affirmations or our mantras, our self-coaching ready to go, because we're like, no way, Ritu Bhasin, stand in your power. Ritu Bhasin, speak. Or my favorite thing, Ritu Bhasin, you've got this. If you don't speak, who will? So then my affirmations and mantras start going, but then my body is still activated.
Yeah.
So then I start doing my deep breathing work in that moment. And I start this deep breathing. I take my hands, I rub it on my thighs, or I put it on my chest, rub my fingers. I feel the tears coming up and I say, cry, let it out, let it out. Oh, you don't want to do it right here because they're watching, you don't feel comfortable? That's okay. Come back to this later. It's called emotional release or emotional discharge. Goes back to the activation. When we feel like we're being judged, what's actually happening in the body is that as human beings, we're animals and we're governed by our nervous systems. All day long, our nervous systems are clocking for harmful things in the environment. Back in the day, although for some people, I think maybe you, Mel, given how your early morning hikes, we're clocking for bears and forests. Okay, most of us are not clocking for bears and forests. What's happening is, oh, see, you didn't say my name right. Or you rolled your eyes when I was speaking, or you raised your eyebrow when you saw what I was wearing, or you keep interrupting me, or I hear the tone in your voice when you're talking to me versus talking to him. Whatever it is, those disrespects, those hurtful things that we're clocking, the body intakes as attacks. It's not the same as being attacked by a bear, but it doesn't matter. The body's like, see, you don't like me. And that's what causes this activation. And when this is happening, energy is generated in the body, which could show up as trembling, shaking, because we're so shocked or we're so upset, could be tears. But the problem is, as humans, we override. And so what happens is the surge of energy comes up, the activation, the tears want to start. We want to start shaking, trembling, let out a moan or a cry. But we say, no, don't do that because you'll be judged. And we push those sensations down. Our core wisdom says to us, come back to it. So for example, I literally, after I've had a stressful thing happen, or I'm grieving right now because my mother is dying of Alzheimer's, I have all day long, I feel the grief. And I'm like, no, you're at work, keep going, keep going. But I come back to the moment later in the evening and I'll take my memory back to my mom or whatever has happened during the day that's difficult. And then I'll put on my music, my calming music. I'll feel the tears come up and I let the tears out and I cry and let it out. Why? Because I don't want that energy to be trapped in me. But the other thing I'll mention here as it ties to our core wisdom is that I also do this with joy, because I feel like for a lot of us, we have capacity, or we spend a lot of time with the pain. And what we're not doing enough of is spending time with the joy. And joy isn't just a mind thing. Oh, this is so nice, and I'm really enjoying this. And isn't this experience with my family pretty and nice? It's the actually feeling it in my body. And then the very last thing I'll say about core wisdom is that, first of all, it can be developed. The more we do it, we develop it. It's like a muscle, of course, is that we want to develop our core wisdom so that we build more settled nervous systems, so that we are more settled, so that we're less likely to be activated. And when we are triggered by the horrible shit that happens to us, we're able to address it. And so there, like many experiences of life, there is no blue pill or red pill that we can take and like, oh, look at that, instantly I am healed. It's not like that. It's a journey. But the better we get, the better and better we get, the less rattled we are and the happier we are, or more joyful. Let's say more joyful.
I think one last thing I want to say to the men out there, any man who feels a sense of failure or that they haven't lived up to their own expectations or those outside of them, any man who's been battling with or has battled with addiction or depression or any of these things that drag us down, I strongly encourage you to start with you and to begin with forgiveness. Not always so easy, but without a doubt, I know from my experience, not just me personally, but being in the company of lots of men, that we are all working our ass off to do the right thing. And while we don't always believe that the results live up, it's in the forgiveness and the starting with yourself and the self-acknowledgement.
And I want to go back to what you said in the very beginning, because I know that we're going to get a ton of questions, Chris. Wow. How do I begin that? One step that you could take today is trying this habit of even just looking yourself in the mirror.
I'm shocked that I'm even saying this, given my initial reaction to the high five habit. But I agree. Start right there. Start in the mirror.
Because if you change the story you're telling yourself about the person you see in the mirror, if you change the actions that you take in how you treat the human being in the mirror, if you change what you're thinking when you look in the eyes of the person in the mirror, that is the beginning of forgiving yourself. Like, you will never forgive yourself if you refuse to look yourself in the eyes with compassion and with forgiveness and with understanding. And one of the reasons why I'm going to keep hammering this, everybody, raise your hand and high five the mirror. Because if you're at a place where you are beating the shit out of yourself and you can't stand yourself for whatever reason, whatever you did, we've all done something, you don't have to change your thoughts. The neurobics and the science of simply making the physical gesture of the high five, Chris, and all of the lifetime of positive programming associated with it, it has a chemical, a neurological, a psychological benefit immediately that is grounded in science. And so the physical act does the work for you, and it starts to plow new neural pathways, and it releases dopamine, all of which will help you do the other work that you need to do to walk down the road of forgiving yourself. But if you got to start by simply looking at yourself in the eyes and seeing somebody who is worthy of forgiving, because you are.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. You could forgive yourself all day long walking down the sidewalk, but it that's a futile exercise. The mirror is where it happens, and seeing yourself.
It's one of the reasons why I always sign off the show by telling the person listening that I love you.
I love that about how you sign off. And I know you mean it.
I do mean it, because I just know how many people can't look at themselves in the mirror. Like, it's just so sad. And I know how much self-judgment we all live with, because I've lived with it. I even learned that it's been 15 years today that you really struggled with loving yourself. And it breaks my heart. And it feels good to have somebody tell you that they love you and that you're proud of them. And to some extent, unless you're willing to do the work on yourself, to let love in from yourself, to demonstrate encouragement, support, and love by looking at your eyes in the mirror or high-fiving yourself in the mirror, if you can't do that for yourself, you will never let the love in that is all around you from other people, because you don't believe you're worthy of it, and you're proving it based on your actions. What are you thinking about? Because I can see you getting moved.
Well, I'm always moved by the way that you sign off and tell people I love you. And it ties back to what I was saying earlier, is just my own experience in being in the company of men who don't, they don't feel that. And I guess since a lot of what I've been talking about is directed towards the guys, I would leave you with one last thought, and that is that while you're standing in front of that mirror and you're looking at yourself, you may feel alone, but you are not alone in either the struggle you have with forgiving yourself, or the judgments, or the failures, or whatever that may be. You are not alone.
At a really wild level, there's actually a human being in the mirror who needs you. It's the one person you spend your whole life with. And the moment that you can look them in the eyes and see a human being worth cheering for, you'll realize you aren't alone, because you've got yourself. I want to thank you, Chris, and thank you for speaking directly to men, because, everything that you're saying is universal. And I do think it's important, though, for men and boys and people who identify as male, that you hear a male voice saying these things. It is critical that other men realize that your emotional health, your sense of self-esteem, self-awareness, self-love, and going back to the very beginning of what I said at the beginning of this episode today, is that I think we get self-love wrong, Chris, because we think love is a feeling. But the truth is, you only feel loved because of other people's actions. And when it comes to learning to love yourself, you have to start with the actions. Actions that demonstrate love. And when you are able to stand in front of a mirror and look yourself in the eyes, that's an act of love. When you're able to bring compassion and understanding to the person in the mirror, and you see somebody that's trying, and you see somebody that has regrets, and you see somebody who still has an incredible life to live and is worthy of love, that's an act of love. When you raise your hand and high five yourself and the human being in the mirror, that's an act of love. And so I love what you said, because so many of us know and wish that we felt better about ourselves. We wish we would stop beating the shit out of ourselves. We wish that we weren't in our own way. And all the research also shows that the most important habit that has the biggest impact on our lives is being kind to yourself. It's in the actions, everybody. And so I just love that you shared all that. How do you believe in yourself, especially in a moment like right now where the future is right in front of you and it is swirling with endings and with beginnings. That's always how I feel in the summer, right? Summer is supposed to be this awesome time where we relax, we dial it down. If you're lucky and you can get to the beach, that's fantastic, or a pool. But when I'm at the beach, you know what I'm thinking about? My freaking future and the endings and the beginnings. And today, I want to throw how you believe in yourself in the middle of all these endings and beginnings. And how do you believe in yourself when you haven't even started taking the actions? How do you believe in yourself when you don't know how this thing is going to turn out that you really want to do? Well, my guest today, she's a super close friend of mine, and she is somebody you want to hear from right now. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about none other than Jamie Kern-Lima. She's the founder of It Cosmetics, which she started in her living room, and she sold it to L'Oreal for $1 billion. And here's the thing that I love about Jamie. Jamie is the queen of learning how to believe in yourself, because when she started It Cosmetics, she was not some influencer with daddy's money. No. She didn't get a degree in how to start a company. She was a waitress at Denny's with terrible skin rosacea, like the bright pink kind of breakouts all over her cheeks. And it was that rosacea and that hardworking work ethic from being a Denny's waitress that made her create her own foundation. And that was the beginning of this $1 billion company that she created in her living room, It Cosmetics. And I know you're going to love hearing from her, which is why I am so excited that you're here to talk to us about your journey. You are one of my favorite human beings of all time. I cannot thank you enough, Jamie, for being here as my friend and for being here as the professor on the topic of purpose and learning how to believe in yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big, warm Mel Robbins podcast welcome to Jamie Kern-Lima.
Mel, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun and real and raw, and I can't wait. And I hope it just adds so much value to everyone listening. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
There's no question, because you have those friends in your life that you don't see very often. But every time you do, it's like no time has disappeared, and you just have this like kind of twinkle on your skin because you just love being with this person. I love you so much, Jamie. I'm actually mad at you that you live so far away from me. So maybe we should just start right there.
I love you. Thank you. I feel the very same way. And one of the things I want to share, I know we're going to dive in deep on purpose. By the way, I love Purpose Professor. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, because it's one of our biggest life questions. How do I find my purpose? But I just want to say, Mel, something really important to me that I didn't want to leave here without saying. You can edit this out if you don't like it, but everybody listening needs to know this. You are one of the rare human beings that is the same off air, behind the scenes, in your everyday life as you are in all the public things. You know what I mean? And you and I have both met so many celebrities and so many people with millions and millions of followers, and it's very rare they're the same. And one of the things I love so much about you is you are even more funny, even more intelligent and brilliant and kind and raw and real in real life. So that congruency is like 1 in a billion. And I love you, and I'm just grateful to be here for you.
Wow. Okay.
Just that.
I think the episode's over now. Now, we got to go back in time because, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because the entire mission of this show is to empower and inspire you listening to us right now to create a better life, whatever that means for you, to take the simple steps that sometimes feel impossible to pursue your dreams, to improve your health, to create greater connections, to believe in yourself. And Jamie truly is not only the professor of purpose, but her life story is a demonstration in cultivating belief in your ideas, belief in your intuition, belief in God, belief that things will turn out. And so I want to go back in time because, I've heard you on the stages that you speak around the world talk about how you started as a waitress in Denny's, and then from waitressing at Denny's pursued a dream that you had of being on television. And as a fellow former waitress, I would love to start there.
Mm. Yeah, waitress at Denny's, full uniform, name tag to prove
Oh,
it.
I forgot they had uniforms.
Full uniform.
What was your favorite thing on the menu?
Oh gosh, I love the pancakes. You know what? Just like simple. It's so funny how our steps are ordered, I think, in life.
Mm.
And so often, I remember being a waitress at Denny's. I remember feeling, and maybe someone listening to us can relate to this right now. You have this feeling inside of you like there's something more I'm supposed to do, but you don't know what it is yet. And you doubt it might be possible. And I remember being waitress at Denny's and just feeling like I have these big dreams, but not quite knowing like how do I believe I'm worthy of them yet. And it was this big season in my life. At the same time, Mel, the kitchen at the Denny's I worked at was a disaster. Like they would take an hour to get pancakes out.
Hmm.
So I learned to talk to people so that they wouldn't leave. They often did leave, or they'd throw like a dime and a penny on the table and leave.
As your tip, as if it's your fault
Yeah,
that the food were.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
But it's so funny how, years later when I ended up launching my own business, I'm like, oh, I've got to get the operations right or nothing else matters. It's just those little things we learn along the way. But yeah, after that, I thought my whole life I would have a talk show. I watched Oprah in my living room growing up, so I thought for sure I would share other people's stories with the world. So I went into did all the jobs, saved up all my money to pay for school, and push grocery carts in the grocery parking lot, sliced meat in the deli, all those fun jobs, and then found myself in what I thought was my dream job, working in TV news. And I thought, this is it, right? And what I didn't realize was I was about to enter this huge season of setback in my life,
Mm.
of self doubt. I have a skin condition called rosacea. And for me, it started getting really red, really bumpy. And I would be anchoring the news live, thinking, like, okay, this is it, this is it. And I started hearing in my earpiece, from my producer, there's something on your face. There's something on your face. You
Oh
need
my
to wipe it
God.
off. You need to. And I was live on television, right? And I would glance down during the commercial break and I saw, oh, the makeup is breaking up on my face and these big red bumps are coming through. And it started this season that felt like setback. But so often in life, the seasons that feel like setbacks are actually setups for what we're called to do.
Okay, stop right there. Did you hear that? The seasons of your life that are setbacks are often setups for what you're called to do. I want to just make sure everybody heard that. And I want to take a highlighter and also highlight something that you said about being a waitress at Denny's. And it's this: you said our steps are ordered.
Mhm.
So, can you explain what that means, particularly to somebody who's listening
Yeah.
who may feel like, I know I'm meant for something greater.
Yes.
Why the hell am I at this step? And this does not feel like it is like on the path of where I'm supposed to go. So,
Mm,
what do you mean by the fact that our steps are ordered?
yeah. I believe, everything in life
Yep.
is happening for us, even when it doesn't make sense.
Ugh. Can
Um,
we just, what do you mean happening for us?
I
So, to
think,
somebody that's like really in it, Jamie,
yes, yes.
what does that mean?
Let me frame it around our topic of purpose, right?
Okay.
So often people feel empty because they feel like, oh, my purpose needs to be some job. It needs to be my job, or it needs to be this grand thing I haven't figured out yet. But for those of us that have accomplished a goal we always dreamed of, we get to it and we're like, oh, this isn't it, right? It's never, in my opinion, purpose is never this big goal necessarily. Purpose is so often when we're able to serve the person we once were or serve in a way for something we've gone through. And here's what I mean. I think our purpose can be like, oh, wow, I went through a really freaking hard season in my
Mm.
life. And I now am actually realizing I'm born to be a generational cycle breaker in my family.
Mm-hmm.
That is an incredible purpose, right? Purpose can be like, oh, I've been having a hard season for a long time. And when I actually just take a minute and say hi to someone else who's lonely, maybe it's like in the coffee line at Starbucks, maybe it's the neighbor down the street, whatever it is, you feel in your gut a sense of fulfillment, like a sense of alignment when you're doing something in your purpose.
Mm.
And I think that the big mistake people make is they think it's this end goal, right? A lot of times when people hear my story and they hear the, oh, Denny's waitress builds $1 billion company, they think my purpose was to be some big entrepreneur.
It wasn't?
It wasn't.
What was it?
In the journey of how I did it,
Yeah.
I took this massive risk, right? Taking my makeup off on national television when I was told not to, and being brave enough to be seen and
Mm.
helping other women realize that they're worthy and enough exactly as they are, seeing them as who they are. To me, that is my purpose. And in doing that, it just a byproduct of that with It Cosmetics is we built a company with millions and millions and millions and millions of customers. And what's wild is 5% of our customers actually have skin issues, like I do. 95% don't. It's just that they felt seen and connected with something that spoke to their soul, right? For me, being willing to say, here I am exactly as I am, no makeup, and, all my skin issues. Um, I think people connected with that feeling of, oh, I'm enough exactly as I am.
You know what else I think is a really important part of your story? It is waitressing.
Yeah,
It's pushing carts in a supermarket.
yeah,
It's working in the back house of a restaurant. That's
yes,
my story too. Helping my best friend on her paper route, bussing tables. And I think when you work in retail or you work in a service job
yeah,
and you feel at times invisible,
mm,
you start to realize how important it is to treat everybody with respect and kindness, that
yes,
there is no work that is beneath you. And when you can bring that level of service to the job that you have right now, even if you hate it, even if people treat you like garbage, even if the back of the house is not getting those pancakes out on time and
yes,
people are angry, if you can bring a sense of grace and service and just humility to those roles, I think it changes how you show up when things start working out because you don't ever forget what it's like to be treated like shit
yes,
because somebody was mad that their pancakes weren't out on time.
yes, yes. And also, you and I have had this experience where we've truly gotten to see and be almost every type of person in every
Yeah.
type of environment. And so now it's like whether it's me building a business or you building one of the top shows in the world, one of the top shows in the world, I feel part of that was like, oh, we understand who's listening and watching you right
Yes.
now. I
Yes.
understand who real people are who built, who bought my products. And
Yeah.
and so when you mention steps are ordered, it's like, no matter where you are in your life right now, what you're going through, I believe every piece of it, whether it's, oh, someone just, cut me off in a parking lot and screamed at me, or, oh, whatever it might be you're going through, all of those things are happening for you, I
Mm,
believe,
I love
so
that.
that you're amassing this toolbox of understanding and getting strong enough and equipped enough for the purpose you step into.
Amazing. So, Professor of Purpose, Jamie Kern Lima, right there. That's your takeaway number one. The steps are ordered. Believe in that.
Mm,
And this moment is helping you, it's giving you something. So, that
yeah.
is one major tool that you used along the way. Let's go back to that moment because I think you were 28 years old, right?
Mhm.
When you're sitting on television in Seattle.
Yeah.
You are a local news anchor, you're living the dream, you're on your way, and you are now starting to have this nightmare happen
Yes.
where your rosacea is breaking through on camera in front of everybody
Yeah.
the makeup that they put on you.
Yes.
And you've got people in your ear telling you there's something wrong with your face.
Yes.
And you're realizing, holy cow, the makeup that they've put on my face cannot cover the rosacea and the skin issues that I have. So,
Yeah.
what do you do in that moment?
Well, the first thing I did was start freaking out, right? And I like literally I started entering this season of self-doubt where I would be live on the air, anchoring the news, thinking thoughts in my head like, "Oh, am I going to get fired? Are viewers changing the channel right now? Like, am I costing the company ratings?" Right? So it was this
Could you
big.
feel those moments when you could feel like the makeup not kind of like disappearing? Like there were moments when I used to be a commentator for CNN. I was premenopausal where I could feel the hot flash coming.
Yeah. I didn't feel it until they said it in my ear and in my
Oh.
earpiece. And then what would start to happen was I would get so nervous and stressed out because I kept trying to cover it during commercial breaks. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. So what I remember is like anchoring the news live, and sometimes you have to be happy, tell this happy story, or you're serious telling. And I just remember my heart beating in my ears, hoping people weren't changing the channel.
Oh
And
my
and
God.
it started this thing where I would spend it's funny. I was anchoring the news, and people think when you're doing that, you must have all this money, but you really don't get paid much at all. And I
No.
took my little paycheck that I had and started spending it on department store makeup, professional artistry makeup, drugstore makeup. I couldn't find anything that worked. And I had this idea one day, like, oh, if I can't find anything that works for me, there's probably a whole lot of other people out there that feel like makeup doesn't work for them. And it was sort of this idea where I was like, if I could figure out how to make something that worked for me, it helped a whole lot of people. And that was my knowing, or this gut feeling. But then my head, Mel, was like, oh, but you got no money, you got no connections, you know no one in the beauty industry, you're unqualified. So I sat in this place, right? And we're talking about purpose. I had this gut feeling like I was supposed to go for this thing, but then my head was like, oh, but here's all the reasons why you're not qualified to do it. Plus, you're in your dream job, right? And I sat between those two. And it wasn't until I had this big aha moment of why I needed to do it that pushed me over the edge.
Okay, so what is the aha moment?
Yeah, so I realized one day, I'm like, this makes no sense. There are thousands of makeup companies out there. How does nothing work for me, right? Then I had this moment where I realized I've never seen a model with bright red bumpy skin saying, selling makeup. Like you always see these photoshopped, airbrushed
Yeah.
models. And I realized, Mel, like, wow, my whole life I've actually loved those beauty commercials, and I love seeing the magazines, and I always aspired to look like them, but deep down inside, they always made me feel like I wasn't enough.
Mm.
And I had this moment. I was literally on the news set when this happened, where I was like, wait a minute. What if it's not just about launching a makeup product? Like what if I could actually figure out how to do it, which I had no idea how, and I had no money. But it's like, what if I could actually launch a product that works for me? And what if I actually put real people as models, like every age, shape, size, skin tone, skin challenge? What if I use them as models, call them beautiful, and mean it for every little kid out there who's about to start doubting themselves, and every grown woman who still does, and that deep source of pain from how I was feeling not enough, and what could I do about it? That, in my opinion, is one of the strongest ways to find your purpose. It's what has just destroyed you or hurt you that you've maybe made it through,
Yeah.
and how can you now use that making it through to help someone who's going through it?
Okay. That's like a mic drop moment from our professor of purpose, Jamie Kern-Lima. So again, I like to unpack these things to make
Yeah.
sure this is a I always say this is not just a listening podcast, it's a doing podcast. And I want to make sure nobody's left behind.
Yes.
And there was billions of dollars worth of wisdom that you just dropped. And so I want to try to unpack it for anybody that is listening to this and you have this sense that you're made for more.
Yes.
So one of the things that I heard is look in your life and see what problems or frustrations or things that you're struggling with that feel like a setback. And Jamie gave you the example of the rosacea on her skin and her inability to find something that actually could help her solve this issue of being able to cover it up so that she could do her dream job. And that setback is a setup for something new. And then get out of your own sort of selfish or self loathing or the self excuses and the self pity and remind yourself that there are 8 billion people on this planet now. There are other people that are dealing with this.
Yeah.
And that if you can figure out how to put your energy into making this better for yourself and you bring other people into the fold with you, you now have something that's worth working on because it helps you and it's going to help other people. And I also want to point something out that Jamie will not tell you, but I sure as hell will. And that is that this was about 14 or 15 years ago. So we're talking 2007, 2008, correct?
Mhm.
In my opinion, Jamie Kern Lima is the reason why we have this real beauty movement. There always has to be the first person, and she was it. So when you look around the internet and social media and you see people doing naked faces, that was not something people did in 2007. It was all airbrush. It was all perfection. That was the beauty standard. There were no plus size or curvy models. That was
Mhm.
not a thing back then. And so you've got a woman who is sitting in Seattle, who has no experience and no money, deciding that she is going to not only figure out how to create a makeup line for people who have issues with their skin, but that she's going to do something nobody has ever done, which is put real, normal people like you and me into her campaigns when she finally gets this figured out. And she's going to show people what her skin actually looks like in order to sell it. I mean, that was a revolutionary idea. She was the first. And I'm telling you this because you could be the first. You have something inside of you that is a problem, something that you can solve. And you could be the first to change the way that people think about an issue. And so, Jamie, let's pick up the story because how do you go from this aha moment, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, to doing something? Because I
Yes.
think some of us have aha moments, right?
Yep. And then we
But we
doubt
don't do
him.
anything.
Yes, because we doubt him. We
Yes.
doubt him. We think like, oh, someone's already done it.
Yes.
Or oh, whatever. First of all, if you're out there right now and you think, oh, you have an idea or a way you want to show up in the world or someone else you want to help, but you think, oh, someone's already done it. Literally, there's only one of you in the entire universe, which by definition means no one has ever done it the way you're going to do it. So
Mm.
when I launched this,
Say that again, Jamie, for the people that are like, whoa, 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 kids, calm down. Wait, Jamie just said something. I was doing my dishes. Say that again. Talk about the fact that this matters.
this is huge because I think the biggest reason we talk ourselves out of things is we think, oh, someone's already done it.
Yes.
Someone's already done it before, who must be smarter than me or more talented or more whatever it is than me. And what I have learned and then proven, and I want to tell you too about I'm going to get so excited, Mel, because no, when you do this thing, like don't be shocked then when there's millions and millions of rejections and people don't get it, right? Because it's never been done before, right?
Oh,
Because
yes.
there's only one of you. There's only one of you doing it the way you're going to do it. But just to recap that, there is literally only one of you in the entire universe, right? And so if you are going to show up to this world authentic, that means whatever you do, if it's authentic to you, it's actually by definition, it's never been done before, right? And so when you show up that way, don't be surprised if not everyone gets it right away. Or, in my case, all the experts I put on pedestals all said no. That this idea of how I wanted to connect with women, they thought it wouldn't work and they thought I wouldn't therefore make them any money.
But can I ask you a question
Yeah.
real quick? How did you go from the aha
Yes.
to starting? So what did
Yes.
that look like? Like, because I
Yep.
think like if you're in this space where, let's just use an example. You've never actually, you don't know the first, you have this thing about catering that you
Yep.
just can't get it out of your head. You want to do these events, you've never actually done this because you had never
Yes.
done anything with makeup. You had
Yep.
no idea what you were doing.
Yep.
You have an idea and you have an aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first thing that you did to start to make this real?
So leaning on that, why I had to do it and why
Mhm.
it felt like it was going to be part of my purpose was a
Mhm.
big thing that helped me actually take the risk, quit my job.
Wait, you
And
quit your job because you had an aha moment?
yeah, it was deep. I was like, if I had
What did it feel like?
it felt like if I didn't do it, I would wake up the rest of my life with this pain in my gut, this longing knowing I was created for more. It felt like if I didn't do it, I would have the pain of regret. And
Mm.
if I did do it, I might have the pain of failure and maybe the pain of embarrassment and then maybe the pain of, oh, wow, that doesn't feel like it went how I thought it was. I knew it was this big risk. I
Yeah.
knew I was leaving what I thought was my dream job.
Why did you have to
Um,
quit your job? Just curious.
It was literally from day one, I was all in. Like I dove all in. I knew if I was going to do this, I needed to just go all in on it. And, I started, I do not recommend this, but I started working like 100-hour weeks from the beginning. I was so freaking passionate about it. Like I couldn't stop thinking about what if I can actually figure this out? What if I can literally, because it became a
So
big
did you have
dream.
any savings? Like, do you have a little bit of
Very
savings?
little
Because you didn't
savings.
pay yourself for the first 3 years that you did this.
First 3 years. So basically, my husband and I wrote this business plan, right?
Yep.
Quit our jobs, dove all in our living room. We poured all of our savings into it. I thought, Mel, and this is for someone watching us right now. I know this. I thought if I can figure the product out, it's going to be huge.
Right.
And then I realized, like, oh, being an entrepreneur or launching a dream is not always that easy. We poured every penny we had into it, and once we actually created a product, and we were scrappy. If you
And
want to
how
know
did you
how,
create a product? Like, are you in your
yeah.
kitchen buying stuff at the grocery store, or how does this even work?
Okay, so no, so so first, I love that technology is right there, right? So researching how are makeup formulations made, who makes them, what are the FDA regulatory compliance, all the unsexy stuff I know nothing about. Just diving into the research phase of how does this happen, and then what I learned is that manufacturers are makeup companies' closest held secrets, right? Like closest held secrets. They won't disclose who they work with, but a
Hmm.
lot of these big manufacturers work with all the top brands that you see or a handful of them.
Gotcha.
So I started,
So are you saying that all of the brands and top brands that you see are basically manufactured by a handful of companies?
yes,
Okay,
handful of
got it.
companies, and then some do it in-house as well.
Gotcha.
So what I did was scrappy. I walked into a Sephora. I wrote down the name of every single brand in there, went home. I had no money, right? Cold call every single brand and saying like, "Oh, I'm looking for a really great manufacturer. Could you let me know who you manufacture?" And then they hang up on me. You know what I mean? One after another, after another, after another. And I got this really small brand in a totally different kind of positioning where the girl who answered said, "Oh, here's who we use. They're in New York City, blah, blah, blah." So that was my first manufacturer. Reached out to them, had a meeting in person, had no money, poured this idea out to them. They took a risk making me samples. And that's how it started, was just really being scrappy, and trying to figure it out. All of our money had went into the product development formula and the
Yep.
advisory board of the product.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, now we have a product that works for me, right? This was after hundreds of formula iterations. I thought that was going to be it.
So is this like year 1 or year 2? Like, how long did this take?
Yeah, it took a good first year to
Okay.
get that product. And then what I started doing was sending it to everyone I thought was just going to believe in me instantly. So I sent it to Sephora and Ulta Beauty and all the department stores and all of the online retailers, QVC, which is, live television shopping channel. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge. Every single one of them said no after no after no after no. And to your point, it became 3 years of not being able to pay myself, 3 years of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of no's, of crying myself to sleep at night.
Were you and your
Um,
husband like fighting like crazy? Like, you should go back to work. You should, but why do we do that? Like, were you like doing
you
that?
you want to know what it was?
Yeah.
We still believed in it, but we weren't sure how we were going to make it. It was like friends and family that were like, wait, you quit your job? Are you sure you should have quit your job? Or wait, you still haven't made any money? Like it's been 3 years, right? So you hear all of this, the voices get so loud.
Yeah.
The loudest, though, were my own self doubt. Sometimes we take a chance and go for something because our gut is telling us to do it. And then all of a sudden, you face all this opposition and you start to question, is my gut wrong? Is my knowing wrong? And there were so many times where I would literally get this another brutal no from, Sephora or QVC or whoever it was. And I would just literally cry myself to sleep. I would pray about it and be like, God, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this, but nothing is going right.
So let's just pause in that moment, because I get a lot of questions from listeners who, because of the things that have happened in their past,
Yeah.
they don't know how to trust their intuition.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of questions about decision making and how to truly, in a situation like this, where you are burning through your entire life savings,
Yeah.
you have left your dream job, You have gotten no after no after no after no after no. How do you stay connected to your intuition in a
Mhm.
situation like that?
Mhm.
What tool do you have, or what advice can you give to somebody who's having trouble hearing what the right decision is
Mhm.
in that kind of situation?
Yeah. So I think that intuition is like a muscle that we build
Mm-hmm.
over time. And I think it's a lifelong journey that, to really learning how to hear it and to trust it. And one of the greatest tools I think is to go back, think back to times in your life where maybe you had this gut feeling to do something and everyone around you said, don't do it. So you listen to them, you didn't trust yourself, and then think about what happened. Right. And then similarly, go back to a time where everyone was like, oh, no way, no way. And you're like, but I love him. I don't think he's lying. I think his phone really did break 5 times every weekend. He didn't disappear his phone. Like, right. Think about like that situation when everyone was telling you something and you didn't listen, or even your gut was telling you, right? And you didn't listen. And you think back to those times and you start to develop pattern recognition
Mm.
of how it felt in moments in your life when you trusted yourself or didn't, and what happened. And you get better attuned to what that feels like. So,
What does it feel like for you
I
in both
feel,
situations? Like, can you describe what it feels like for you when you're like, yep, no, that's a no? And what
yes.
does it feel like for you when you're like, I'm sticking with this?
Yeah. Often it's the tiniest of feelings in my gut, right? Some people describe it as like a still small voice. I pray about it. I ask God to give me the answers and I try to live the answers.
Do you feel the answers that God gives you? Like, is that what happens for you when you do this?
Like right now, when I look at you, right?
Yeah.
Like I know you're a beautiful soul, right? I just know it. You know it. You feel it. Like I feel like you have good, like you're good. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
feeling, right? And we get these feelings, but so much around us is so loud.
Hmm.
And we just learn over time. And by the way, not to go, this could be a whole other episode, but especially as women from the time we're young, we learn not to trust ourselves. We walk in to our parents fighting and we go, is everything okay? They're like, everything's great. Everything's great, right? To protect us, we start to learn to
You're like,
doubt ourselves.
baloney.
Right?
Yep.
But
Uh-huh.
or, especially as young girls, you learn to make decisions by consensus
Mm.
often with your friends,
Or
and you
making other people happy.
making other people happy. People pleasing. We're rewarded for pleasing everyone else and almost ignoring what we feel. So if you're someone who's an adult right now going, I don't even know how to hear my own gut or trust myself, that's why we've been trained out of learning how to do it, right? So it takes intentionality and really deciding, oh, you know what? I'm going to put in some time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, just to thinking about moments in my life where I trusted myself, where I didn't. And if you don't remember any of them, start now.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.